Good morning, everybody. I'm Barb Nangle, the community manager of Known Co-working, and I'm really excited this morning to welcome Amira Brown to Known Live. Good morning, Amira.
Good morning.
I'm going to take a moment to talk a little bit about Known, and then I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. Let's see. So today, Amira is going to be talking about being a multi-passionate, successful artist, and then whatever else comes up in our conversation. Before I introduce her, I want to tell you a little bit about Known in case you're not familiar. It's a dynamic co working community to connect people across their fields of expertise, endeavors, and experiences. And though we started as a co working space in downtown New Haven, and it's still the only co working space in downtown New Haven, we moved our community to the virtual world once quarantine started. And as a result, we now have three virtual programs. We have Digital Media Sync, that's hosted by Julia Googe, the social media maven of Agents of Branding. That's every Tuesday at 8:30. We have Known Live, which is this show, and we also have Pivot Talk. So Digital Media Sync is your window to the digital world. So it doesn't matter how much or how little experience you have with digital media. It's a great place to learn how to use tools. And Known Live is a place for entrepreneurs, artists, creators, thinkers, educators, and community members to share who they are, what they do, who they serve, and how they do that. And then Pivot Talk is a virtual stage for businesses to share and learn as they grow. So, right now, we're really focusing on folks who have pivoted as a result of quarantine, but once that's all over, we'll continue to do it because the pivot is a natural stage for many businesses as they grow. If you or anyone you know would like to be featured on any of these shows, shoot me an email. I'm at barb@knowncoworking.com. And our purpose in both the physical and virtual spaces is to make connections between people. I personally am a connector. It is what I do. It's like angel singing to me when I can make a connection between two people or a person, an organization, or something like that. And we're here to help you get inspired, get connected, and get known. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Amira. Take it away, Amira. What would you like
Hi.
us to know about you?
Um, Hi, my name's Amira. I'm an artist and creator. I've spanned over many creative niches in my time of creating, which has been for a while, and I'm super excited to be here.
Fantastic. So, we have been doing an artist series, and we're particularly focused on folks who are artists in the New Haven area. So, we were talking a little bit ago about some public art that you have. Do you want to talk first about some of the things that you might be known for in New Haven in terms of public art? Would you mind talking about that?
Sure. My public art projects at first have been Create the Vote, in which I created a mural, and not a mural, but a poster series for engaging voters in 2019. And then for public art, I did an installation at the Pitkin Plaza in the Windowed World series. And that's what I have so far. For my organizing, I've done Bailout Gallery, in which I did a fundraising effort combining the art and output of 40 artists together on the site. And we had raised money for bailout funds and local organizations on the ground in Connecticut, Minnesota, and New York.
How did you pick Connecticut, Minnesota, and New York?
Um, that's well, I first chose Minnesota because that's where the George Floyd protests were strongest,
Gotcha. Okay.
and then New York because Brooklyn, what was
Mm-hmm.
happening in Brooklyn, and then Connecticut because I live here
That's
and
because
I
you live
cannot
there. Yeah,
leave
yeah.
Connecticut out.
Okay. How did you come up with that idea? That seems brilliant.
At first, I was really upset at what was happening with the protests
Yeah.
because it was just really disheartening seeing all these protests and then people getting hurt at the protests and being hurt,
Mhm.
and I was like, and then this widespread galvanization, and I felt bad that I couldn't really like commit or make an impact as an artist at
Mhm.
first, because like most people were just doing like pieces of the people who were memorialized, and
Mhm.
I did not want to do that, but I did not know how I could contribute in my own unique way.
Mm.
So after a bunch of heart to hearts with a friend of mine, I eventually came up with an idea that, oh, maybe I'll set up a little gallery. Maybe 10 people will come through and then I'll just sell the art. And then it went a lot further than that. A lot of people joined, and I was like, okay, well, I have to definitely make sure this gets represented and done properly. So
Mhm.
Bailout Gallery eventually started coming through, and I made up the name on the fly because I was like, oh, that's a good name, I
That is
guess.
a cool name. Yeah.
And after that, it was pretty much just it just kept going, and then eventually I closed it because I had to go back to work, and
Mm-hmm.
also because we had raised enough money, and I was like,
Great.
wow, this is beautiful.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for your contribution to the community.
No problem.
Um, so it sounds like, in addition to being the creator of art for that project, you had to do a fair amount of coordination as well. Yeah,
Yes.
I was just talking to another artist yesterday, Kwejo Ade.
Hmm.
Do you know him? And he was talking about doing Black Lives Matter mural on the street and the amount of coordination that is involved in that sort of thing. And I wondered, um, are there people who aren't necessarily artists that are in the artist community that help out with doing things like that? Like they're the coordinator of the public projects?
I don't really know. For me, I coordinated it by myself, like sending out all the
Okay.
emails and talking to the artists and all that organizational
Okay.
stuff
So you
and
must
building
be
the
a
website.
fairly organized. Oh, building the website too. So you're
Yeah.
organized and you're web savvy. So one of the things I forgot to ask you when we were talking beforehand was whether you want to share your screen at all. If there's any pieces of your art that you would like to share.
I will pull some up, but I'm not going to share yet. I'm just gonna
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
just gonna.
I meant to have you do that, and it's fairly easy. You should see a share screen, but when that happens, you will no longer see, what's going on with me and you. It'll just be your screen. But I think, people would probably like to see some of your artwork. But I'd like to hear some about the different media that you use and how you think about the creative process. We were talking about some of that before we came on live. So dive in wherever you'd like to begin.
For my creative processes, I've pretty much spanned many directions: sewing, sculpture, painting. Um, what else? Sculpting into painting canvases. Found objects, not sculptures, but found objects, collage, and just really experimenting. And for me, it was mainly a journey. It was kind of
Mhm.
like I was trying to focus on, like, I remember we were talking about how artists are trying to find their one thing. In a way, that was supposed to be my journey. I was supposed to put my hands in as many pies as possible and just say, okay, I like apple pie rather than cherry pie, but I do like cherry pie. So
Okay. So you liked all the pies.
I liked many of the pies.
Yeah. And you continued to play in all the pies and all these different media?
At the moment, I'm kind of taking a break a little bit. I kind of, after bailout, it was a very involved endeavor, and I kind of felt a little confused a little bit after. So I thought I should take time, find out what I'm doing and what I really want to go, and
Mm-hmm.
just like center myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing with putting your hands in many pies, sometimes you get confused, like whether you even like pie or whether you like cake, because it's a lot of
Yeah,
pie.
yeah, yeah. I love the metaphor. Do you mind talking about the confusion? Is that something you're comfortable sharing with?
Yeah, that's perfectly good.
Okay.
Um, After Bailout Gallery, I felt like a lot of people were like, "Oh my gosh, why'd you stop? Are you going to do something next? I would love to hear about it." And I also felt expected of myself to do something similar. So I
Mhm.
did come up with a project that was supposed to be a bigger version, like a gallery with a lot of moving parts and all this stuff. And
Mhm.
I wanted to put it into action, but when I did, or when I tried, I just froze up and I just felt confused. I was like, why am I freezing up about this? Why
Mhm.
am I not doing it? I did bail out with such efficient speed and action. Why is
Mhm.
this not working? And I realized it wasn't necessarily because of the project, it's just because I wasn't suited for that journey.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, Amira, it's time to recenter, take a break, find out what you are
Mhm.
really about. Because
Mhm.
I went from arts to organizing to almost gallerist, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's a pretty big slide from where you
Yeah.
were.
Right. Yeah. So you said you needed to center yourself. Do you mind if I ask how you do that?
I've been meditating more. I've
Okay.
also been kind of seeing where I am and what I like to do outside of creating art and creating drawings. I hang out with my family. I still working, and
Mhm.
I'm definitely attempting to just like see who I am, see where I want to do, and like kind of reel back into my past and see what brought me the most joy out of creating
Mhm. Mhm.
from an outsider perspective.
And have you gotten an answer to that yet? Like, what
Uh,
brought you the most joy?
I may have an answer, but I don't want to
Okay.
like say, "Oh, this was
Okay.
the
Oh,
answer," and then
yeah.
jinx
Okay.
it.
Yeah, you don't want to jinx it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, oh, I just had a question and I lost it. Well, I guess I want to hear, like, one of the things we talked about before the show was this dilemma that some artists have about whether to get a quote job, um, that pays the bills so that you can be free to create your art or not. And so, can you talk about your thoughts about that and how your journey in terms of your income and making money from art and what it means to be, quote, a successful artist?
Yeah. Well, to be fair and honest, I've always had a job. I've always worked a job,
Hmm.
from like retail clerking to like deli clerk last year. I've never not had a regular day job.
Hmm.
I once did do all-time creativity for like
Hmm.
10 months. That was
Hmm.
also last year because I quit the deli job.
Hmm.
And it's to do your creativity 100% and not having a net or not being in that place where you can comfortably make your income, it can be a very stressful time because then you're wondering
Hmm.
where you're going to get your income from next or something. So
Hmm.
I went back to work, and I have no shame in that because
Hmm.
sometimes there's that aura where like if you're not creating 100% of the time as a creative, you're not really a creative,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I have to say that's not true.
Right. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Who says that actually? Who are the people that say that?
it's
Yeah.
just kind of like an ideal that's set by
Hmm.
the market and the capitalistic
Hmm.
standards. Like if you're not
Yeah.
doing it 100% of the time, you're not doing it right.
Right. Yeah. Which is a little crazy, and it seems like a lot of pressure. So, I'm guessing that when you feel all that pressure and that stress, that it might be harder to create under those circumstances. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is very
Yeah,
accurate.
yeah, yeah. So, in terms of the paid gigs that you've gotten as an artist, do you mind talking about like how you've gotten those and um, where that's led you?
So far, yeah. Basically, I used to show, actually, I still show locally in the gallery areas in New Haven, and
Hmm.
I talk among gallery organizers, curators, and stuff. And
Hmm.
sometimes they'll drop a line, and sometimes I'll be referred, or sometimes I'm just looking myself, or they drop an opportunity that you have to apply to, and whether I
Hmm.
get it or not is not up to them. It's up
Hmm.
to my quality of work, how I
Hmm.
do it, and the people who actually organize that event in general.
Hmm.
So that's usually how I do it. I still email and like ask people about opportunities, and some people
Hmm.
recommend like, "Oh, hey, you should apply to this. This looks like it would fit you." And I was
Hmm.
like, "Okay, I'll apply." But mainly that's how the sort of opportunities trickle in. They just let me know it's there, and I just go
Hmm.
for it.
Hmm. So when you say something would fit you, like what is that? Like what are you known for?
I a lot of things, a lot of things.
So what might be the kind of project that somebody goes, "Oh, Amira totally needs to apply for that."
Maybe like comics, zines, painting, teaching, or what else? Painting, teaching, design, drawing, painting. Just it's a lot of things. It's a lot of
Yeah, it is a
things.
lot. Tell me about zines because I
Ooh,
don't really know much about them. I want to hear about zines.
zines are basically little magazines. They just took the MAGA part out, and
Okay, yeah.
like the part of the magazines,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
then get a little zine. And they're mainly self-published booklets that people create and spread of their own will. You can sell them, you can trade
mhm,
them,
mhm,
and that is generally how they work. They were popularized in the 80s, 90s, and even
mhm.
70s at concerts, and they just kind of took a life of their own because people were
And
just like, oh, yeah,
we're talking hard copy here, not
hard
digital.
copy, hard
Okay,
copy. Yep. But
okay.
as time has gone on, they have created digital zines and
Mhm.
ways you can actually like share them, because when it comes down to, it's more about sharing a community
Right,
rather
yeah,
than like the medium it is in.
yeah. Yeah, I'm familiar with, Raheem Nelson has his little robot series. I'm guessing that that's a zine. I don't know if you know him or if you're familiar with that. He's another New Haven artist. And
It
actually,
dep-
he was on the show a few weeks ago.
yeah, I saw the show. It was really
Oh, you
cool.
did? Oh, cool. Great.
Yeah. I was wondering because it looks like a web comic, but I don't know if he
Oh,
collects them
okay.
and puts
Yeah,
them into an actual zine form or PDF to spread and
yeah,
share.
yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah, that probably sounds like a better description, a web comic. Yeah. So zines, you said a couple other things, but I lost. I know teaching, like what do you, I'm assuming you teach art? And
some kind of.
who kind of, what does that mean?
I'm not necessarily. I've been working towards teaching opportunities. I'm not
Okay.
teaching yet, but I've done
Okay.
workshops and sometimes occasional classes.
Oh, like at Creative Arts Workshop maybe or
Not yet, but maybe.
oh, oh good. Okay. So what would be the first class that you would teach if you had the opportunity to teach whatever you wanted?
Uh, I think I would teach honestly comics. I enjoy comics so much. They're so fun. They're
Awesome.
hard work, but they're fun.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I actually worked with a guy who was a psych grad student working on a project that I worked on, and he worked for a well-known comic as an artist, and he said it's like slave labor, to be honest with you. This is one that like ran in the Sunday papers and stuff like that,
I
which is a
see.
little probably much different than than what you're talking about. But
Yeah, most of my comics are self-published. I don't
hmm
really publish through anybody.
hmm
I just make the content myself, which is
hmm
like, you do all the jobs, you publish it, you create it, you write it, you
hmm
letter it,
hmm
you just build the whole thing. And
hmm
then eventually you either put it on your website, put it on a web comic host or something like
hmm
that.
hmm
So that's
So
how we
it
usually
sounds.
do it.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I
Oh no,
thought you
I
were.
just finished. I just finished.
Yeah. So it sounds like you are quite the entrepreneur when it comes to your art. Do you think of yourself as an entrepreneur?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I think that there are so many areas of life, and especially for creatives, where we are entrepreneurial and we don't necessarily think of ourselves. Do you think of yourself as an entrepreneur?
I definitely believe so. But
Okay.
my parents were both entrepreneurs before me. So they were like, yeah, Amira, you're definitely
So
be business like.
speaking of Raheem, he says, "Hi guys," and he says, "Yes, web comic first now, will publish later." So good to know that he's watching. That's really cool.
Hi, Raheem.
And speaking of that, if anybody has a comment or a question, please leave it for us. If you happen to be watching the recording, it's still okay to leave comments, and we'll make sure that they get back to Amira. And while I'm thinking of it, I'm gonna I put in your Instagram and your website. So I'll put that up here. So if people are looking to reach out to you, if they just want to follow you on Instagram, they want to check out your style, they can go to your website. Um, so back to you had mentioned a couple things, teaching, zines, all that sort of thing, and I've lost what some of the other things were. What was
Paint,
it? Painting.
painting,
Okay.
illustration, and I said comics already, so I'm
Right.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of illustrations have you done?
I mainly right now I usually use it for teaching,
hmm
but when I did do illustration, it was mainly around editorial and
hmm
mixed media based teaching illustration because I thought it was like the most open as well
hmm
as the most challenging.
hmm
I like challenges, so
Oh,
I
good
just
for you. What's
yeah.
mixed media illustration?
Mixed media illustration is the process of using multiple mediums like oil, acrylic, watercolor, drawing mediums, and then applying it to the basis of illustration.
Okay, got it. I see. Okay. And so you just said teaching again. So who are the people that you have been teaching? Because you said you used illustration in teaching.
Mainly students, high school to
Oh,
maybe
high school. Okay.
yep, or the occasional like college student or middle schooler.
Okay. How do you connect with them?
I introduce myself and I try not to be as awkward as possible.
Well, I'm just thinking about other creatives out there who could do that sort of thing. And like, how did that start in the first place? Like, how did you get your first teaching gig, whether it was with, one student or many?
My first gig was technically with Nasty Woman. I was talking to Luciana and she
Okay.
offered up the opportunity and I was like, wow, that's amazing. I would love to. And then I
Awesome.
did a small zine workshop in which
Hmm.
I think went really well. Everyone like really resonated and created their own zines and it was
Hmm.
just really fun and they just really opened up.
Hmm. Since you just mentioned Nasty Women Connecticut, maybe not everybody that's watching knows anything about it. Do you want to say a little something about that project?
Yeah, Nasty Woman is a grassroots organization in which they promote like feminism through art and creativity with shows, workshops. They just opened an Etsy store where they're
Oh,
selling some
fantastic.
merchandise. It's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we've actually talked about inviting Luciana onto the show, and Julia's working on reaching out to her because, that those are exactly the kind of artists that we're looking to profile and projects. And I remember they were part of the collab, the Startup Accelerator in New Haven, and I was at the pitch event where they did their pitch event, and I happen to know one of the other women, Attila Shepard. I don't know if you know her. That was, part of that project. And yeah, I went to one of the shows, but I can't remember which one it was. Looks like we have. Another comment from Raheem saying he's going to take a look at your site. So
Oh, thank you so much.
wonderful. Yeah. Well, this is what this is about. The reason that we invite people here is that we want to introduce you to our community. And of course, we want to be introduced to your community too. And the way that this has been working is really entirely word of mouth. We started with people that we know. And then when we have guests on, and I'll be asking you the same thing, is there someone else that you can recommend to be on the show? And it's been a really cool thing to see like where it's taken us and all these really cool places. So, and I met Raheem at Known because Christina Kane introduced me to him. And then, I met you through Julia, who I met through the Grove and is now doing a show at Known. And it's really kind of cool how the whole co working world works.
Yeah.
So, is there more that you want to share with us that I haven't asked you about?
I guess for me, it'd be kind of around like success, I guess,
Okay.
and how we were talking before about like,
Mm-hmm.
who you are when you're not like looking for opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that's where I am right now. I'm kind of trying
Mm-hmm.
to see myself honestly as a person and what I genuinely am about and not about, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I was just thinking about how often like, you know, we are taught to be like, you're about to be one thing, you'll monetize that one thing, and then you work at it and work at it and work at it until like,
Mm-hmm.
you you ascend to another plane.
Whatever that means. Yeah, whatever that
whatever
is. Yeah, yeah,
whatever that
yeah,
means. Yeah, and
yeah.
it's just like it makes me feel kind of weird because like I see so many young artists like I want to do this and I want to make a lot of money and I want to do that and I'm like, well, what? Why don't you do it because you like it?
Mm,
And I feel like that's a reason that a lot of people kind of also quit because they be like, oh,
mm,
I can't make money from this, so I'm not going to do it.
mm,
When
mm,
when it comes down to the reason you shouldn't be doing that in the first place is because you're not here to be creative to make money. Like
right.
yes, there's a business for it, but that's not
Mm,
what you're supposed to initially be doing it for,
mm.
you know?
And you are doing it for what are you supposed to be doing it for, in your opinion?
I think you're supposed to be doing it first for yourself
Hmm.
because, you like I was thinking you can't pour a glass or help other people from an empty cup. So let's say you
Mm.
want to do all these things and stuff and yet you don't even know what you're about. Like how are you
Mhm,
supposed to
mhm,
share that with others in a genuine way if you don't
mhm.
know what you're about in the first place?
Yeah, yeah. There's something about the process of creation. I would say, I was telling Amira before the show, I do these crafts with like seashells and stones and beads and sea glass and all that sort of thing, and that is the place that I get into flow. Um, More than any, like it's the easiest place for me to get into flow through this process of creation. Though I also write, and that's easy for me to get into flow too. I think that creation is almost where I'm at the essence of who I am.
Yeah.
Lack of, not really aware. Um, So we have another comment. This is from Rachel. She says, "You mentioned that your parents were entrepreneurs before you. What did they do? Did they inspire you to pursue this path? What got you into the art space initially?" Did you
Yep.
say your parents were entrepreneurs? Somehow I
I
missed that.
did. Yes, they
Oh,
were.
okay. I somehow missed that. Thanks, Rachel, for the comment.
Thanks, Rachel. Yes, my parents were both self-made entrepreneurs. My mother is a daycare provider. She made her own business, and my father's an electrical contractor. Shout out to both of them. They both did inspire me very heavily to be an entrepreneur. They're like they taught me. They didn't teach me. I had to learn by myself, but they always were there to support my
Hmm.
artistic leaning and
Hmm. Hmm.
push myself to be an artist as well as an entrepreneur. But
Hmm.
for me, I think I took it too seriously and put the cart before the horse by accident. It wasn't their fault; it was totally my fault. But
Okay.
yes, I got into the art space initially through school. I started at Pear College of Art, and they
Oh,
had
nice.
at the time we showed with Citywide, so that's how I initially got into the local art
Oh,
scene.
nice. So,
And
for
that's
those who don't know, Citywide Open Studios, which happens in October, amazing series of events where artist studios are opened up citywide to the public. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's one of my
yeah,
favorite times in the fall for sure. So I love that your parents are entrepreneurs and they didn't try to squelch your artistic leanings. That's so fantastic to hear. And I also love the marriage of entrepreneurialism and artistry. And I think like one of the things you were saying, like we have this idea, like we're gonna get this thing, and then we're gonna like go to another plane. And the thing is, when you come with an entrepreneurial spirit, I could completely change what the thing is that I'm doing. The evolution doesn't have to be, maybe it's on a new plane, but it's in a different, I know genre is the only word that's coming to mind.
yeah.
And yeah, and I think like the fact that you work in so many different media is also telling of your entrepreneurial spirit.
Thank you.
Yeah. So another question that you and I talked about was this. How did we say it? It was about the success thing. Like what does that mean to be a successful artist? Like, what does that mean when you hear that to you?
Before when I heard about it, I thought it was like, oh, I'm financially successful. I make my own work. It has a unique style. I can do what I want and afford a lifestyle I want. And that's what I thought it was. But when I
Mm,
realized it, it's just like being a successful creator just means like you're happy making your work. You're just
mm,
happy making your work because eventually one day, like, due to one factor or another, like something may happen. And you have to realize like who are you without those things? Because sometimes, as high, especially the art market,
mm,
it can make or break people in the same line.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
And you just have to
Absolutely.
be ready to rely on yourself. And I
Mm,
think that's also an entrepreneurial skill,
mhm,
resilience and like
mm,
knowing yourself.
mhm,
Because if you go into
mhm,
the wrong field because thinking you're going to make money and like, you may be left out. But
mhm,
I think when you know yourself and you are resilient,
mhm,
it's much easier to lean into things that are natural for you. Let's say like you're good with numbers and you like math,
mhm,
maybe accounting, bookkeeping, and you're
mhm,
organized. That's also
mhm,
a very important skill. But like
mhm,
it's just a willingness to do a lot of work.
mhm, mhm. Right.
You know,
Yeah, and it sounds like you're kind of answering Rachel's question here. What do you think? Like resilience for sure. And to me, what that means is like you can bounce back really easily. And I think like what I see in the world of entrepreneurship is the ability to fail well. And what I mean by failing well is that you recover very quickly because you have to be accepting that you're going to do things that aren't going to work. And instead of letting that take you down, you have to be like, what do I learn from that? How do I get back from that?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
very much one of my major mindsets, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. And Rachel also says you have a very unique outlook.
Thank you.
I think that's it for the comments so far. Um, so, in terms of the success thing, I loved your definition. It's like, are you satisfied? Are you happy with what you're doing and what you're creating? Do you think that for you anyway, having a job that pays the bills makes it easier for you to reach this definition of success as an artist?
Somewhat kinda, and then someone kind of not.
Okay,
I
tell me about
enjoy
that.
having my job and like having the time to create and not worry about paying bills, but sometimes always in the back of their mind, they're just like, you're not there yet on that successful level yet, that
Yeah.
successful level. And it's like, it reminds me like, oh, you got to keep pushing, oh, you got to keep growing, but I got to realize I got to slow down instead of saying all of
Mhm.
those things. I got to say, am I happy creating
Mhm.
what I'm creating?
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
great. So it sounds like self-talk is really important in your life as a creative. And I know that I found like years ago, I didn't even know that I had a ton of negative self-talk until I saw it written on a page. I was reading a book. Somebody was saying, "Oh, these are the kinds of things my clients say to myself," and I was like, "Oh my God!" And I had to do a ton of work to, first of all, listen to what I was saying and be like, "Oh my God, that's horrible," and then stop doing it and then replace it with stuff. Have you ever had to go through that kind of a process? So can you talk
yes,
about like how do you manage what's going on up here?
I have a process now where if I'm going to a negative spiral or a negative series of thoughts, I stopped the thought and I said, Amira, this is not the correct thought. It's like you need to treat yourself with more compassion than that. And
Mm,
two, like
mm,
look at it from an outside perspective.
mm,
If you don't treat, like I say, treat your mind the way you treat other people, with
mm,
kindness and
mm,
respect,
mm,
you
mm,
know,
mm. Yeah.
because like it doesn't help you.
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, I think I realized, first of all, I would never talk to another human being like that. And secondly, I would never allow someone else to talk to me like that. So why would I do that to myself? And I started thinking, how would I talk to a friend? Like you said, with kindness and respect is how I would do it. And what I've learned is I still have thoughts that are not very nice, but I don't believe them anymore. That's the difference for me. Is I used to first I didn't even see that I had them, that so it was just this audio that was playing all the time. And then once I started seeing it, I think I thought I had to believe my thoughts. And now I'm like, that's just bullshit. I don't need to believe that.
Yep.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to share that we haven't gotten to?
Yeah, maybe I have some work to share with you guys, if that's
Okay.
okay.
I would love it if you would share some of your work. Bring it
I'm
on.
awesome. I'm gonna press the share screen button now.
Okay. And then I'm going to have to, when you do that, I'm going to have to click a button to make it be shared.
Okay. Okay. Here we go. Yep. Share.
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
there we go. Okay.
Yep. So I'm gonna go to my pictures. All right. My these are some older pictures of my. Oh, here we go. There we go. And now I'm gonna do that and that. Yep. So here are some pieces.
This is exciting.
So this is one of my earlier pieces from earlier this year. Yeah.
What does it, do you want to tell us about it?
It was kind of called Control. It was basically about like,
Oh, CTRL. I saw it on your site, like the key on the keyboard.
yep,
Right.
I kind
Okay.
of
Cool.
abbreviated it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was kind of about like how people attempt to gain control through their lives and what methods they use to do that. And this one was kind of centered around gossip. So like you can see
Mm.
like the silhouette of a girl on the left side
Hmm.
whispering to the person on the right. I don't know if it's flipped or not, but that's definitely one of them.
Yeah. So that's
Yep.
interesting. I'm in a couple of 12-step recovery programs, and one of the things that I learned through the 12 steps was that I gossiped. I didn't know that I did that. And it's because I grew up in a family that had engaged in indirect communication, which is what gossip is. And I've done a ton of work. And I started to see, like, I was trying to, I thought of it as managing information, but it's control, really trying to exert control in areas where you can, which is
Yep.
other people. Yeah, great. Love it.
Yep. And then there was one I did a couple. That's not the right one. All right. Couple more pieces. My penny pieces, which I
Oh,
think
yeah. Tell
people
me
really
about
enjoy
those.
for
Those are
those.
cool.
Thank you. Let me see if I can. These are the close-ups, but yeah, this is like the preview.
And
I try
is
to.
that tilted on the side?
It is tilted on the side, but it
Okay.
also reveals like there's each space or person in the penny series has a door that leads to another image,
I see. Yeah. Okay.
and it's upside down. That's lovely. That's so close. Please be right side up. No, it's still upside down. Oh my god. Yeah, so I think this
Okay.
might. Yeah,
Yeah, these are
so
beautiful. What was your inspiration here for the Penny series?
this actually came from a dream. I was like kind of thinking
No
about the questions
kidding.
I think of consciously, and I so was like, okay, and then I just solved it in my dream, and then I woke up. I'm like, wow,
That's so cool. Has that ever happened before?
that it. Sometimes I'll make paintings in my dreams, and then I'll see them, and I'm like, wow, I gotta remember this when I wake up, and then I forget when I wake up.
Okay.
But this
Yeah.
one was like the first one I consciously solved it in my brain, or unconsciously solved it and made the image, and I was like, what? And then so I just started making the series.
Okay, when you say solved it, what are you referring to?
I was asking myself a series of questions in my dreams that I generally ask in my waking life, and my
Okay.
brain was like, okay, so we have these
Let's
sets of problems, let's work around a solution, and then it's
nice.
solved.
That's
And
really cool.
it
And
was
so
really
was
crazy.
this something like, did you do something to plant it into your subconscious when you went to bed at night, or it just sort of happened?
It just sort of happened.
That is so cool. I
To
love
be
it.
fair, I was thinking about it a lot. I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing now because I have.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. Well, we only have a couple of minutes left. Is there more that you'd like to talk about? Any burning desires to share something? I love to give advice to young people, maybe young aspiring artists. If
yes,
you have any thoughts for them,
yeah.
lay it on us.
I will. I definitely will. Mine's is just like look to what you enjoy doing now. Like for me, I'm trying to focus on radically accepting myself where I'm at right now, rather than creating a future self that I will accept. Accept yourself where you're at now as a creative and see what you want to do in that moment. Like, do you want to make a comic? Do you want to make a giant painting? Do you want to make a set of murals? Just what do you want to do in that moment that you genuinely enjoy? That's really what I want to ask and like focus on that.
Mm, mm.
You
Love
know?
it, love it. Yeah, I think that's another lesson I've learned in recovery is don't worry about the future because this is the moment that we have right now. So focus on yourself in the here and now. What do I like? What do I feel moved to create, and what makes me feel alive? Is sort of how I think about it.
Yeah.
All right. Any last parting words?
I No, I can't say that one because it's just like no one's gonna give me a puppy, but I do want one.
Somebody might give you a puppy. If there's anybody out here that has a puppy that they want to give to Amira, here are the ways that you can reach her. I want to thank you again, Amira, for joining us on Known Live. No comments about puppies have popped up yet, but I'll let you
I
know if they do.
know.
And as a reminder, Known Live is one of 3 shows that we have through Known Co-working, which is a fantastic space. If you're someone who's tired of working from home and you want to get out, for a day or a couple of days. We have day passes for dedicated desks, and we have all kinds of safety protocols in place. And you can catch our shows on our website, which is knowncoworking.com, and look under events. Take care. Thanks again, Amira. Really appreciate this.
Thank you so much for
All
inviting
right.
me.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye, guys.